Alright, so now we're going to go through a continuation trade on GBP USD. This is a low time frame trade once again, but this time looking at a continuation, not a reversal. So as usual, starting on the higher time frame charts, the hourly for this example, we can see here that we've had lower low, lower high structure. We've had lower low and lower high structure coming to a close at this level, where we then started to shift into higher highs. The market then pulled all the way down very close to the low, but actually formed a higher low, which then broke this structure point and started to form this upside momentum. Now coming into the market on this day, we can see then we have higher high, higher low, higher high, higher low, higher high. We could potentially react to this area as a higher low and begin moving back to the upside. So if we go down to the lowest time frames then, because we have a basis for a trade, we'll look at the 1 minute straight away. We can see that coming to the close of the Asia session, we have here what looks like a lower low, lower low, lower low. Coming into this point, then we had a quick impulse, a strong impulse to the upside, which has broken through these previous structure points. So we could potentially be looking at a reversal here, but let's have a look if there's any interesting price action going on behind, because we need to be sure of it. Now what we can see here is that recent higher low that we had, which came down to sweep out the liquidity beneath these equal lows and then form this little area here. So we do have this zone that broke structure, which hasn't yet been retested from quite a while ago. So if we just have a look at this, we can see that it does align nicely with the current price action. So heading over to where price is now, we see that market came into that, retested the midpoint area, and then the impulse came in. So this could give us indication that the market is likely to move up. This is going to be the most clear zone. We do also have these two other zones as well. This one is heavily imbalanced, so we could potentially see a reversal from one of these points. Now, if we let price play, we will see that the reversal came in from the extreme point, right? So you may see this as the zone that broke structure, but because we have large imbalances, it may be best to either sit out or set an order on the extreme. Personally, I'm not going to go with a trade on this one. This is a reversal trade, but it's a tricky one to go with because we do have these smaller zones, even though this is the larger imbalance zone that's going to be more clear on the higher time frames. So there's a potential for a reversal trade there. But let's say we didn't execute here and we want to get in on the momentum now that it's moving to the upside. Well, that is where the continuation trades are going to come in. So if we just have a look at the structure, then we can see the most significant structure point right now is going to be this point here. So we could potentially look to trade up into this point, and then if we break through this point with some strength, we could look to continue that because we know that the market is going to be bouncing from this area and we may now be shifting into an uptrend. If we remember back on the hourly time frame that we just looked at, we could see that the market was in a clear shift of higher highs and higher lows. So from here, let's just watch price. Now there are going to probably be some opportunities here. We see obviously this area being the zone that broke structure here. It does come in for a nice buy. But these are quite tricky ones to work with. They're very tight. But what we've seen here now is a very clear break of the structure high. Okay, so we could potentially look towards some of these demand zones to run price up when retested. Now we have this area, which is kind of efficient. This is the extreme of the move that broke structure. So this is the move that broke structure. This is an imbalanced zone at the bottom, the extreme imbalance zone. So if we mark this on here like so, we could put an order in at this level because it's a very imbalanced extreme zone. I'd be a bit more cautious about putting orders on at, for say this level. It is kind of efficient. We've had a retest come into it there. And also it is obviously sitting above an imbalance. But this is the imbalanced area that broke structure. And we can see before that price was efficient here. And then obviously we don't worry about this because this was not where the strength came in to break this significant structure. So we could go with an order here. Now for stops on this one, you could go very tight, but I would actually prefer to clear this previous little zone as well, just clearing these wicks in case the market does wick a little bit lower. For this trade, we could find a clear target by actually scaling back in price and seeing right where are the areas we are likely to move into. Now this could be an open-ended swing trade because the price action before it is open-ended. But if we have a quick scale back at the previous structure leg, which is going to be this push down here, we can identify potentially a nice little area to target into. And if we grab our tool here, we could look towards possibly this area for a drive higher. And if we're looking more intraday, lower time frame, we could potentially look towards this area as well, which could provide us with a very nice target, just being that imbalanced supply zone near to price. So let's go back down to the 1 minute, see if we're going to get an execution on this position, and we'll see if we can actually target towards that level that we just marked on for an intraday position with a modest target and a good clear entry. So price plays out, comes into the entry point, we do get a retest there, may get a secondary tap, so we don't want to actually move the stops yet. But if we break over some of this structure, for example, we could then potentially look to go break even on this. And as we see, the market makes a large rally up, so we could now go break even. We'd have no risk running on this position. If we leave it to run, let's see what happens. There we go, we get a breakout to the high and a retest of this zone. So that's a solid continuation trade there, where we're using the zone that broke structure, the extreme imbalanced zone that broke structure, to set a buy order and then get triggered into the trade and just continue what we see on the hourly as an already existing uptrend. And we targeted here a 15-minute supply area, which was imbalanced in the previous price action. This is one of those trades where you could potentially extend the targets. Now, as I mentioned before in an earlier video when I did the 1 to 53, and I held 10% of my position up to 53R, this is one of those trades where you could potentially extend a small portion, 10 to 20% of the trade, up towards this level. Now, I don't know if that's going to get tested, but because we're in an uptrend and we are looking for trade continuation, we could certainly do that, and it would allow us to extend our targets out. So as you can see, we took 90 or 80% of the trade there, and now we can see that was 6.5R. Now we can see the rest of it is running at around 17R. So you could obviously hold the whole position out, but it's good to take some profits at logical levels, because it's just as possible the market would hit this level, then form a reversal and not come back. But as we've seen here, price is running nicely, and we should be able to actually come and fill this target in. And that is an example of a continuation trade. So now, as we saw, there was also a reversal opportunity at the start of this movement, but it was a tricky one, and it was in Asia session as well. Probably wouldn't have been ready and active to execute this at my trade timing, and also with the multiple zones, it's pretty tricky to work out where price is going to move from here. So the continuation was fine. The continuation turned into a brilliant position and is likely to be fulfilled for a total of 17R.